Welcome to video number 4 of 9, the table saw. With the table saw here, we use it for a couple purposes. The main purpose is ripping our board to width. We can do some cross cutting, we can make tenons on the table saw. I have another attachment, a dado blade that I can put in there for making dados and rabbets. This is step 2 of the 5-step process. In the last video, the joiner, we talked about step number 1, joining the edge of your board. This is step number 2, ripping your board to width. With the table saw, there's a couple things you need to know. It's like all the other power tools in the shop. It's all tied to the dust collection system. So before you begin your ripping operation or cutting operation, make sure you open the chute. This is the rip fence. It has a lever here, allows the fence to be slid from side to side. There's a tape measuring device here. That's how you set up for your widths. Just like in the other one, the table here, I've got my board or boards that I ripped, jointed yesterday that I'm going to rip today. So I'm going to show you how to go through that process. So that's one adjustment that you're going to need to set up before you turn the power on. Always make your adjustments with the power off. The other thing is the blade height. The height of the blade should be at 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch above your stock. And you notice I lifted the guard up so I could set the height of the blade. If you need to raise or lower it, there's a wheel in the front. Clockwise raises it, counterclockwise lowers it. So I've got the blade height and the guard. Now as far as setting the fence, my 35-inch piece here, my convenient lane, I'm going to be ripping to 1.5 inches wide. Margin of safety on the table saw is 4 inches. So whenever my distance is 4 inches or less, I need to use a device called a push stick. There's a couple different variations here. Okay, if my distance is over 4 inches, then I can just put my hand or use my hand to go through the rest of the board. I don't need a push stick. But for this case, for the legs, I'm going to be ripping them to 1.5 inches. So I set the fence to 1.5 inches and then lock it down. Make sure you lock it down and it's in the locked position. I have just enough distance there. Push stick fits in there. Whenever you're ripping on a table saw, make sure you have somebody on the other side catching your board. Okay? For the demonstration, I'm going to show you how to do it, and then I'm just going to let my board fall on the floor. You want to stand to the right side for 2 purposes. Number 1, you don't ever want to stand directly behind the blade. And number 2, the power switch, if you're on this side, you'll be reaching across and you possibly, your knee or your leg will hit the power button as you're going through cutting your piece of wood. So, safety glasses, I've got my distance, I've got my push stick, and I want to put the jointed edge against the fence. Remember on the joiner, we only jointed one edge, so that jointed edge you want to put against the fence. So I got my 2 boards here facing the same direction. I can either put them on this side or this side. Just keep them away from the blade. Our table saw has a button here that you pull out which turns the saw blade on. I'm not going to open the chute or turn the dust collector on due to the noise factor, and then you won't be able to hear me. We'll talk about some of the other attachments after I get through the cutting operation. I got my 35-inch piece, right hand goes in front, left hand back here. I want to hold the board down so that it doesn't raise up off the table. Keep it against the fence. Notice my right hand stays in a fixed position. I let go with my right hand, grab the push stick, then let go with the left hand. Okay, and that's what you want to try to avoid by having somebody catch your board for you. Right? I still have smooth edge here, goes against the fence, I make a second pass. Notice I'm not going too fast, but I'm not going too slow. Number 2. I never let go with both hands at the same time. I always have one hand or the push stick on the board at all times. And now I'm going to make my 4th and final pass the same way as I did the previous 3. And I shut the machine off, let the blade stop to remove my piece of scrap. You just lift up on the anti-kick device, pull it out, and place it in the trash can. So that was for my 4 legs. Okay, I got 4 pieces that are all 1.5 inches in width and 35 inches long, which is my convenient length. Now, I'm going to set it up to cut a slat, which is 3.5 inches. Even though I need 4 for my table, I'm just going to do 1 slat and then 1 half slat. So I set it to 3.5 inches. Again, my margin of safety is still under 4, so I need a push stick. Jointed edge against the fence, turn run, stand to the right side. Right hand forward, left hand back. Feed it through. Grab the push stick. Okay. If I can get one slat, and now I'm going to readjust the fence to 1 3/4 and cut a half slat. You look on the table here, I have slats, 4 of them that are 3.5 and half slats that are 1 3/4. So depending on the width of your board, that will determine how many different pieces or which part you get out of your board. Again, jointed edge, or in this case the cut edge, it's a smooth edge, will go against the fence. Right hand forward, left hand back. Remove the right hand, grab the push stick. And there's one of my half slats. Okay, I would have to complete the process so that I got 4 slats and 2 half slats. Okay? And that's for the table. Now, a couple other things that we can use the table saw for. This is what's known as a miter gauge. It fits in the slots on the table like this. Allows your board, in our case we use it for cutting tenons. I put it across and then I can adjust the blade, have to remove the guard, and then I can cut across the grain cutting tenons. All right, when we cut tenons on some of the projects, it's a 2-step process. So we use the miter gauge to cut the ends on both surfaces, and we switch to this device known as a tenoning jig. Again, it fits in the slot like that, and then your board, you would have the guard removed. Your board fits in like that, and then you run it across the blade, and it removes the rest of the material for a tenon. We do a mortise and tenon joint. The tenons are done on the table saw. Mortises are done on the mortising machine. And then also a dado blade. That's more for Woods 2. And this is video 4 of 9, the table saw.